An Ohio Speedweek barn burner, more Outlaw drivers using freebies, some rumblings about Dirt Cup at Skagit, plus more on the plan to straighten dirt late model bodies, including an officiating change. Let's go. It's Monday, June 10th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. A bunch of racing to talk about from yesterday. We'll start first with Ohio Sprint Speedweek at Waynesfield. I think the official margin of victory between Cale Thomas and Danny Dietrich at the line was a single thousandth of a second. Thomas looked like he was going to run away with it over that last part of the race, but Dietrich closed late and nearly snagged the win right at the line. Thomas did say afterwards that he knocked the Jacobs ladder out of it and was just trying to get to the finish. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that Thomas has been the top guy so far this season in Ohio, and having him racing hard for the win with maybe the top Central PA guy so far was really fun to see. Win number 4 of the year for Thomas and a big bounce back from a tough Speedweek opener at Attica. Dietrich also with a tough Speedweek opener there. I haven't seen updated points today, but I'm assuming Cap Henry still leads the way with a win and a third so far. Waynesfield today and last night took a beating for the track surface that started to take rubber pretty early on in the night. Some have told me it was going that way in qualifying, others saying heat races. Pretty dry though, dusty, and again, not what anybody wants. I think the feature was pretty damn good though. I know teams will be upset about chewed up tires, but really good racing out front of that one with Thomas, Dietrich, and Henry. I think there's a lot of potential there with Waynesfield to be a really great little track, but some help does need to come in the form of track prep. I also don't agree with this idea that somehow people aren't allowed to criticize tracks for nights like that. As long as it's constructive, let it eat. Sharing an opinion about a track surface isn't going to end a racetrack. Poor management ends racetracks. I do want to mention as well, it has been good to see Thomas have success this season. He's got a great story. He's really turned into a solid driver. More to come from him this season for sure with Jay Kaiser. Speedweek action shifts today to Wayne County for another 5,000 to win show. At Kokomo last night, Daison Pursley had the walk-off as he won the Indiana Midget Week finale and the week-long title. Pursley was never off the podium during Midget Week. He won twice. He had a second and 2/3. He's also taken a solid lead in the season-long championship out front of Cannon McIntosh by 67 points. This could be a good sign for Pursley's season, especially with Logan Seavey having a few down finishes this past week. We won't see the Midgets again for about a month with the next scheduled race set for July 9th at Red Dirt Raceway. Racing, though, does continue at Kokomo tonight with the XR Super Series coming in for 15,000 to win. I would definitely expect some of the teams that participated over the weekend at Eldora to have stuck around to race this one. Dirt on Dirt says Hudson O'Neill, Mike Marlar, Ricky Thornton Jr., Bobby Pierce, Devin Moran, Brandon Shepard, Jason Fager, and a bunch more are expected. O'Neill actually the defending race winner for this show. And Mike Marlar leads the XR Championship right now with just one race complete on the season. We'll move on to some more racing here in a minute, but he did want to double back to some late model rules stuff from this past weekend at Eldora. I mentioned on yesterday's show that the late model nose pieces were under scrutiny at the Dream, and bodies continue to be a point of emphasis for the late model series rules makers. We talked back at the beginning of the season about Devin Moran's car making waves during speed weeks with its twisted and skewed shape. And then in April, I clued you guys in on a plan that was developing to try and rein things in, with officials with the World of Outlaws developing a template system to try and bring things in line. The complex system of welded together bars first appeared during the MLRA weekend at Lucas Oil Speedway back in the spring and was used during the Outlaw weekend at Talladega. I didn't have a photo at the time I could share and instead gave you guys a bad Photoshop job of what it looked like, but now I've got an actual photo of the setup being used at Eldora thanks to my guy Paul Arch. You can see here the template system being used on Austin Kirkpatrick's car. That's actually Austin in the photo there with the tape measure coming across the nose. And then the template system itself is the red bars you can see here on the screen. You can see a bunch of crew guys gathered around, kind of scoping everything out. And then to the very left, I believe that's Kelly Carlton, who does officiating for the Flow Series. I don't know where we are right now in the process of full implementation of this system, but clearly it's progressing and more information is being gathered. As a side note here, I do want to point out a tech official change and one related to this process. On the Outlaw side, Kenny Canada had been heavily involved in this template system, but I am told he's no longer working with the World of Outlaws under series director Steve Francis. Supposedly, he parted recently and instead of being at Eldora, was a spectator at I-70 this weekend with High Limit in town. Normally, you get all of the World of Outlaws late model officials going to Eldora to help with tech because that's a DIRTRACKR sanctioned event, and you even see the World of Outlaws late model series trailer in the infield there. World Racing Group does currently have a job posting as well for a series tech official for the late model side. I had wondered if Canada's departure would affect this process with the bodies, but clearly not. And I do think the bodies and aero stuff will continue to be a topic that's kind of bubbling under the surface here for the rest of the season, which I'm sure will draw the ire of some and probably delight a few others. In Sunday late model action, Greg Satterley made a late move around Tyler Emery to win the Appalachian Mountain Speedweek show at Hagerstown. Through 3 races, Saturday leads the standings on the strength of 2 wins and a 4th. The late model Speedweek is off today with racing starting back up again on Tuesday at Path Valley. A couple of other notes about some sprint car shows. Scotty Thiel, the Sunday IRA winner at Angel Park, he's close to within 8 points of championship leader Jake Blackhurst with 6 races complete. Bill Rose was in attendance yesterday with the IRA. He finished 6th after starting 3rd. I don't believe there has been any change to his World of Outlaws full-timer status, but instead this was likely him just using one of his freebies. Remember, Outlaw teams can use up to 4 before they cannot participate in that larger bonus program for the year. Rose didn't use a single freebie last season, and for a team that's up against it pretty regularly with the Outlaws, it makes a lot of sense for him to use these freebies in situations like we saw yesterday. Another Outlaw driver using a freebie on Sunday was Landon Crawley. He was at Huset, likely doing some prep work for the upcoming Highbank Nationals. He ended up 17th after starting 10th in that feature. He's now used 2 freebies, with the other happening at the High Limit show at Riverside. Other drivers taking advantage of a chance to get some Huset's laps in included Jacob Allen and Kyle Reinhardt in the Indy Race Parts 71. The Outlaws are at Knoxville this coming weekend before that big $250,000 to win show at Huset's. This will be a weekend to watch for in terms of entries because Dirt Cup at Skagit happens the same time as Huset's. I've heard rumblings there may be a High Limit team or 2 that could go to Skagit instead of racing at Huset's. High Limit goes tomorrow at Eagle, and then they don't race again until June 26th at Lake Ozark. I think most of the High Limit teams will do Knoxville and Huset's with the Outlaws, but keep an eye on that Skagit deal. Austin McCarl was the Sunday winner at Huset's. A hat tip as well to Zach Patterson. You can normally find him doing tires for David Gravel's Big Game Motorsports team on the road with the Outlaws. On a Sunday, though, near the shop, Patterson jumped in a 305 sprint car and won the feature at Huset's yesterday. Gravel and crew chief Cody Jacobs also there hanging out. All right, that's it for the daily today. I've been getting crappy comments lately when I mentioned subscribing to the show and checking out merch, so I'm not going to do either of those things today. Instead, I'll just say thanks for hanging out and all of your support of DIRTRACKR. Hope you guys have a great Monday out there. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.